Hi loves, welcome back again to Eco Designs to Fit. My name is Chinwendu. So guys, I made this beautiful two-piece, and in today's tutorial I'll be sharing with you guys how to make the down part, which is the palazzo pants. It is very simple. If this sounds like what you're interested in learning, please keep on watching, and if you are yet to hit on the subscribe button, please subscribe and let's get started. Welcome back again guys. To draft out my pants, I always like to mark out my horizontal line and the vertical line. Those are the first line you should consider when making your pants. So as you can see from the top of my paper, I came down by 1 inch, and then from the center fold of my paper I'm going to come in by 2.5 inches. You can as well make use of 2 inches, 1.5 inches, but because this is a palazzo pants, I'm coming in by 2.5 inches. Now after marking it down to my desired length of pants, I'm going to connect it with my straight ruler, just as you can see me doing like this. Now after this, I'm going to bring in my tape and I'm going to minus 2 inches for my bands and then mark out my hip points. So for my hip points, I'm going to be making use of 9 inches. So I'm going to bring in my tape measure right now and then minus 2 inches for my band and then mark 9 inches for my hip points. Now after this, I'm going to take it down to the knee points, 20 inches. And then next, I'm going to take it down to the length of my pants. The length of my pants is 40 inches. But because I'll be needing hemming allowance, I'm going to add up 2 inches. That made it 42 inches. Now after this, I'm going to go ahead and square my lines, just as you can see me doing like this. As you can see, I am done connecting my points, so let's go ahead and label the points. Okay, so I have the waist points, I have the hip points, I have the knee points, I have the length of my trouser, and then the allowance. For the measurements I'm going to be using for these pants, I have my waist circumference to be 40, I have my hip circumference to be 46, I have my thigh 29, the knee is 20, and the ankle is 7. Those are the ones I can remember for now. So whatever measurements you have, go ahead and make use of them. Next, I'm going to remove 2 inches from my band and then mark down to 11.5 inches. And this becomes my crouch depth line. Now to get your crouch depth, you have to divide your hip circumference by 4. Remember, my hip circumference is 46 divided by 4, and I got 11.5 inches. Now this same 11.5 inches, I'm going to mark it out on the crouch depth line, on the hip line, and then the waist line, just as you can see me doing like this. And after that, I'm going to connect the points together. After this, next thing I'm going to do is divide my thigh measurement, which is 29 inches, by 2, and then mark it out on the crouch line. Okay, and then I'll move over to the waist, divide my waist circumference by 4, mark it out just like this, and then connect it to the hip line. Now after this, I'm going to come to the crouch line again, and then whatever it is I have right there, I'm going to divide by 2. As you can see, I use my tape to divide it, just to have my trouser divided into 2 equal halves. So I'm going to mark it on the waistline down to the hem of my trouser, just as you can see me doing like this. And after that, I'm going to connect the points together using my straight ruler. Now guys, once I'm done connecting the points together, I'm going to move over to the crouch line so that I'll be able to connect my crouch extension. Now for me to connect this my crouch extension and not go too deep, I'm going to come out by 1.5 inches, just like this. That would serve as a guide, and I'll use my curve to connect it properly well. After that, I'll move over to the knee points. My knee circumference is 20 inches. Now this 20 inches was meant to be divided by 2 to be 10, but because we have divided this trouser into 2 equal halves, I'm going to divide it by 4. I hope you guys understand. So I'll input 5 on both sides of the trouser. I'll move over to the ankle. My ankle circumference is 14 inches. I'll divide it by 4 and that gave me 3.5 inches. I went ahead to input that, and right now I'm trying to connect the points together. Once I'm done connecting the points, I'm going to extend it down to the hemming allowance, just like this. And then on that hemming allowance, I'm going to come out by half an inch, okay? So this half an inch will help my trousers align properly well by the time I am joining them. If not, they're not going to be equal. Now remember, this is a palazzo pants. The down part is meant to be very wide, so I'm going to come out by 2.5 inches. That is how wide I want mine. You can extend it by 4 inches, whatever it is that you want. Now on this side, I'm going to connect from the hip down to the length, and on this part from the crotch down to the length. And you guys, I'm going to have to cut out my front pattern. Once I am done cutting out the fronts, I'm going to bring in another pattern paper, okay? Now this other pattern paper, I'm going to have to, from the upper part, go down by 3 inches before marking out the horizontal line, and from the center front, I'm going to come in by 3 inches before marking out the vertical line. Now I've marked it out and I've placed in my front pattern. As you can see, I'm trying to use my pins to hold it in place. Now after that, the first thing I'm going to do is extend my back crouch, okay? Now for my back crouch, I'm using 2.5 inches, as you can see, and I've connected it. Now after that, from this crouch line downwards, I'm going to be inputting 2 inches, and that would be serving as my sewing allowance for both the front and the back. Now if you notice, while drafting out my fronts, I did not add any seam allowance, okay? So all the allowances for both the front and the back was added to the back, as you can see, and that is these 2 inches that I'm just adding. I hope you guys understand. Now after connecting the points, I'm going to move over to the top, okay? Now on the waistline of the back, I'm going to have to extend it by 1.5 inches. You are still going to understand why we are doing this, because we are still going to remove this 1.5 inches from the front. Now after this, I'm going to divide my waist circumference by 4 and then mark it out. You can see the way I connected that, okay? And after that, I'm going to connect it back to the hip line, just like this, and then I'll come over to the 1.5 inches line and extend it. So guys, next I'm going to have to extend the back with 2.5 inches and then connect it to the crouch line, and after that I'm going to have to connect my crouch extension. So I'm going to come out by 1.5 inches so that I will not go too deep, like I said previously, and I'm going to connect it properly well, okay? So guys, after that I'll go ahead and connect it back to the waistline. So we are done with the back block. I'll go ahead and remove all my pins and then cut out the pattern. Now guys, once I am done cutting out both the front and the back, I'm going to bring in the front, just the front, so that we modify it, okay? So we are going to have to alterate the front because we extended the back by 1.5 inches. We are going to remove that 1.5 inches from the front. So you can see from the waistline, I went down by 1.5 inches and then connected it back to the waistline. Now after this, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Now what this does is it helps the trouser relax properly well around the waistline. Okay, so guys, this is it. This is both the front and the back block. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out on my fabric. So here is my fabric. I am done cutting them out, both the front and the back. So now it is time for us to cut out the pockets. Now if you want to make use of pockets, it is optional, not a must, but for mine I'm going to be making use of pockets. So here is the pieces I'm going to be using. I've folded my pieces into 4. So the side facing towards the crouch is the totally folded part, and the side facing towards the hip side, I'm going to be cutting it out just to get the shape of my hip. So first of all, I'm going to trim off the waist. Okay, now you can see what I have right there, and then I'm going to cut out the shape of my hip, as you can see. Now the length of the pocket itself is going to stop 1 inch below the crouch depth. So I went ahead to raise it up, and then I'll be cutting out the length. So here is my pockets. I have succeeded in cutting out the shape of my hip. So I'm now going to go ahead and open it up. So you can see I have my 2 pockets at once. Okay, now once I open it up, I'm going to use one side to cut out my pocket opening. Okay, so I'm going to place in my trouser that part of the hip. Make sure I align it properly with the pockets. Okay, pocket pieces. Now from the sides on the waistline, I'm going to come in by 1.5 inches because you don't want it too wide. If you mark it too wide, the pocket is kind of going to be gaping. I don't know if you understand. So I'm going to be coming in by 1.5 inches. And then for the length of the pocket opening, I'm going to be making use of 6.5 inches. Some people make use of 7 inches. It depends on what you want. Okay, now from that end, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. All right, and after that, I'm going to snip through the 1/2 inch and then curve it out just like this. Okay, so the shape of my pocket opening is going to be straight. If you want, you can actually curve it out and give it a shape. Okay, so now after this, I'm going to now remove the pins and then move over to my weaving machine and weave all around the rough edges of my pocket and the trouser pieces. All right, now guys, as you can see, I am done weaving the edges. So this is for both the front and the back on top of the table. I also went ahead to weave my pockets, and if you notice on the pocket side, I added paper gum to it. Okay, this is because the fabric is a crepe and is stretching, so I have to make it stable with this paper gum. All right, so that I will smoothly join my pockets without it stretching. Okay, now I'm going to join the crotch of the front and equally fixing my pocket for the front. As you can see, I am done fixing in the pockets. This is what the back looks like. So guys, I'm now going to repeat the same thing for the back. I went ahead to join the crotch of the back, and this is my back. Now guys, next I'm going to have to measure the waist because we have to fix in our waistband before joining the side seam. So for the back, I have 24 inches. Now I'm going to measure the fronts. For the front, I have 18.5 inches. Now guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut out my band off camera, both the front and the back. So I am done with it, and this is it on the table. Now when I was cutting this out, I folded into 2 to cut out. So if I open it up, I'm going to have 5 inches. I hope you guys understand. So I folded in half inch, which I'm going to use to stitch this. So by the time I measure it, I'm going to be having 4 inches. But then again, if I close it up, I'm going to have 2 inches height. I hope you guys understand. Now I'm going to fix this into the waist of my trouser, and to fix this, I'm going to follow the wrong part of my trouser piece to do that. Okay, so I'm going to open up one of the half inch that I just folded in, and then stitch following the back side, and then top stitch towards the right side. I hope you guys understand. So guys, I am done with it. This is what I have. Here is for the front and this is for the back. I'm going to now join the side seam. So I'm going to first of all place the back on top the table, okay, and I'm going to bring in the fronts. So I'm going to place the fronts on top the back, making sure that the right sides are facing each other, and I will go right over to my sewing machine and stitch this using 1/2 inch. Okay, after stitching the sides, I'm going to stitch the inner part also using 1/2 inch. And you guys, after all of this, I'm going to bring it over to the table so that you guys can see what it looks like. So guys, I am done joining the side seams and here it is on top the table. Now it is time for me to fix in the zipper. The zipper will be going to the side, okay. You can either fix it on any of your sides, okay, but for me, I am fixing it on the right side. It depends on what your clients prefer, okay. Now after this, I'm going to go ahead and fold in the hemline of my trouser, okay. So I'm going to fold it using 2 inches. And you guys, after all of that, here is the final look of my trouser piece. I hope you guys find this tutorial helpful. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. I will see you in my next one. Bye.